What is going on, you guys? So, last week we got the coil packs relocated and all that stuff mounted up, but we didn't have the harness to actually extend from the coil packs to the engine harness. So I ordered up these, which have the good, they got nice little connectors on them, but this actual piece itself to me is pretty useless. So let's cut it apart, modify it, and build our own coil pack harness. Alright, first things first, I got the coils out of the car. Now we know position on the odd side bank that this coil is going to sit this way, so we're going to have 1, 3, 5, 7. So I got to get the coils lined up so I can route the harness. Now this harness that I got, these were actually pretty decent quality. I bought them on Amazon. They were only like 25 bucks. They're pretty much like a universal extension harness. That's the factory plug for your LS engine harness, and they're not color coordinated exactly correctly. They're close. Instead of a purple wire, you have a pink wire, and instead of an orange wire, you have a red wire for some reason. Don't know why they do that, but that's the way it is for this one at least. I mean, some different applications might be different colors, but for the E38 Camaro PCM, these are not the right colors. That doesn't really matter though. The issue that I have with this is I don't like the way they all come off straight, and then you got this kind of just hanging off there. What I like to do is kind of take my wires and bring them up and over and kind of bring them together real nice and clean. So when you do that though, you're gonna have slightly different lengths. Now, I mean, you could probably bend this and tweak it, but I also really don't like wire loom. So, I mean, you guys have seen my entire engine harness. It's all heat shrinked and sealed very well from the elements and oil and debris and stuff like that. So I'm gonna strip this down, cut it up, and then basically we're gonna start from coil pigtails. And realistically, I'm not going to be using any of this, so I'm just going to cut this down just to make it easier to strip all the loom off. Now we have our pigtails. So basically the way I'm going to route these is once I get them color coordinated properly. So 1 is purple, 3 is blue, 4 is 7, and 5 is green. So they are opposite from even side bank pretty much. Now, the way I'm going to route these, since we're going from 1, 3, 5, 7, and the connector is going to go this way, basically I'm going to route these wires like that. So they're all going to come together like that right there. And then all the powers, the signal, and ground wires are all going to get tied together. So basically I'm going to take these two banks, tie the power, ground, signal wires together into one wire off each of those. Same thing on these two, just to keep it a little bit tidier. And then later down the harness, probably about here, each one of those wires from each one of these banks will come together and they'll be a single wire. So then by the time it goes out to the connector, you have a single power, single ground, and single signal wire. Now before I start, I've got to heat shrink these. So I'll usually do heat shrink to about here on them. So I'll heat shrink about that much of it, and then I'll do that to each one of these, and then start soldering wires connector, heat shrink them. Once these ones are soldered up and heat shrinked, I will slide heat shrink over these, because I'll have my extensions coming off of those also. So these will be heat shrinked together. Same thing on this. And then heat shrink will go over that. Tie all those together all the way out to the connector. That way the whole thing is sealed all the way to the plug. Now that all sounds very confusing, and describing it kind of can be confusing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little time-lapse video of me building this harness, because they do take a little bit of time to do. You know, you gotta, if you're trying to do it right, you gotta put the time in and solder it and make sure you have good connections and everything like that, and put the connector end on it. So I'm just gonna set the camera up, do a time lapse for you guys. All done, laid out. Now I'm just gonna bolt this back onto the car, test fit it, make sure everything lines up real good, call it done. Well, I gotta do the other side still, but yeah, you get the idea. Both sides of the ignition coils are now done, bolted up, routed, wires, plugs, done. So finally, we can check one thing as fully completed off the checklist, the ignition system. That is all done. You can see how the wires kind of route. They go through the bracket right there, up along the firewall, into the connector right there. And same story on this side. We have the harness, routes down, plugs in right there. I'm gonna have to put some P-clamps on here or something. Just waiting to tidy all that up. Probably gonna wait till final assembly time to do that, because, you know, this all has to get stripped back down eventually and taken back apart before it goes together for final assembly, so might wait on that. But anyways, that's going to be it for this one. So subscribe to the channel if you're new, follow the build along, like the video if you liked it, and I will catch you guys later.